This week, I'm reviewing a book on the French art of Savat. Hi guys, my name is Joe and welcome to my channel, Fighting Words, the Martial Arts Library. On this channel I review martial arts books and talk about other martial arts related subjects. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the book Savat by Bruce Tegner. The original was published in 1960. My copy was a reprint from 1983. Now, Bruce Tegner was a very prolific author during the middle of the century. He originally had a background, as I understand it, in jiu-jitsu, traditional jiu-jitsu as well as judo. But he published books on a variety of subjects, including self-defense, stick fighting, karate, and Savat, which is why we're here. Now, for those of you who've seen one of my very early book reviews, I reviewed a book on low kicking, and they had a very unusual leg chamber that they referred to as the Savat chamber, where the leg was swung back across the body before it was swung out toward the target. And in that review, I sort of noted that this didn't match up with any of the Savat materials that I had. The Savat book that it referenced was Bruce Tegner's book on Savat. So I decided to check it out and see if he was responsible for that particular chamber. And the answer is yes. So we're going to get into that in a second. The book starts with a somewhat sketchy history, including some early competition rules. It's notable that the man that he credits with teaching him Savat was a Canadian who died in World War II long before the book was published. Like most martial arts books, it does start off with stances. He presents a couple of different ones, and then he goes into kicks. The thing that I notice is that the stances seem very old-fashioned. You know, by the 60s, Savat, was getting more into the modern sport, le boxe français, that we are used to. So you had more upright stances. The ones he's showing are wider. They seem to have a lot in common with karate stances. That might be a theme. He shows kicks that strike, among other things, with the edge of the foot. Okay, that's enough. So when it comes to kicks, Mr. Tegner shows a variety of kicks, some which do seem common with all the other Savat resources I've come across, some that are not. For instance, he shows kicks that strike with the edge of the foot. He shows a version of the side kick that I haven't seen in any of my other Savat resources. It's a very karate-style kick where it's hitting with the edge of the foot instead of with the heel, which is, as far as I have seen elsewhere, is what Savat typically strikes with. And as I mentioned earlier, we get this swinging motion where the foot swings away from the target before swinging back to it. As you might imagine, if you are in a fight with someone and you take your striking tool away from them, that telegraphs your intention and wastes precious time. So this is also not something that I have found common in other Savat material. He also does show spinning and jumping kicks here. Those would not necessarily be out of place, again, with the other Savat material that I have. Then he goes on to punches. For me, there's a little bit of question on terminology. For instance, he refers to a right cross as a separate punch from a right straight, but he doesn't really go into any detail about what the difference between the two is. He also includes a spinning back fist, which I'm not going to say that that's illegal in Savat. I know that there was an old school boxing punch called a pivot punch that was basically a spinning back fist. But again, in the other Savat material, this would seem to be an unusual inclusion. It would be more common with karate. Similarly, some of the blocks he will use things like, the glove block, which is common in boxing arts, and then also use like an upward block, like again, karate style ageuke. Some of this, the material presented seems like it's karate and gloves. It again, when I take a look at the other Savat material, I hate to keep saying this, there just seems to be something fishy here. You might say that maybe some of the blocking stuff might be reminiscent of, again, old school bare knuckle boxing. They would block by reaching out away from their body, as opposed to more modern methods of blocking in boxing, like catching it and shelling up. Perhaps one might allow that it is reminiscent of that. I don't know. But I guess we can at least acknowledge that it's a possibility. The next section is on defense against the kicks. Some of these include blocking a kick with a kick of your own, and he also shows some defenses against kicks using the hands, including like punching down on a leg that's swinging upward. I guess you can get away with that in gloves? Maybe. I don't know. Again, I'm looking over at my notes. I got a lot of things with question marks on them. He refers to, a salute that the saboteurs will touch gloves as a means of saluting one another. The Savat salute that I'm familiar with is based off of the old European, fencing salute, where you would, bring the sword up to the face, then, swing it off to the side. The Savat salute that I'm familiar with is bringing the fist up to the chest and then swinging it out. So, again, there's something in this book that doesn't match up with the other resources that I have. After that, he goes over combinations and feints, and then he includes some pretty lengthy prearranged sparring sequences. So we get sequences between two different saboteurs. These could be seen as maybe like flow drills of, he kicks and I block this way and I return with a punch and he defends like that. One characteristic here is that it includes the use of the arms as a counterbalance, which was used traditionally in like very early Savat, where they would swing the arms behind themselves as they were kicking forward. I don't know if this was contemporary practice by the 1960s. Also shows in this section, again, very old school, where the opponent has caught one of your kicks. So you place your hands on the ground and kick at them with your free foot. Again, this was like really old school stuff. I don't know if this is something that someone would have learned from a Savat teacher in the 50s and 60s, or I guess even into the 40s. There's also a little bit of unusual terminology. For instance, the one thing that comes to mind is at one point he's calling a punch a jab, even though it comes from the rear side of the body. As far as the pros go, the only thing that really comes to mind is some of the partner drills might be useful, like the paired sparring. Okay, concerning the cons, this doesn't seem like a very efficient method of fighting, either for sport or self-defense. A lot of that, to me, lies in the kicking mechanics. Again, why are you swinging your leg away from your intended target. Just letting the guy know you're about to punt him, and you're already off balance, and you're on one leg, and it seems like a terrible idea. So, recommendations. Man, I hate to be such a downer. I review these books so I can get information out there. I never go into this with the intent of, let me trash this work, right? I've got some Ashita Kim books back there that I'm going to find something useful in. But I strongly speculate that there's a lot of this book that was taken from karate resources and other parts of it from maybe very old Savat manuals. I am dubious that he had a teacher who themselves was trained by a contemporary teacher. As such, it's sort of difficult for me to recommend it, because the only reason I own it is to compare it to other works and go, I'm not sure how honestly this was made. And I hate to be like that, but again, this is an aberration when it comes to resources that I have on the art of Savat. It's a novelty. That's what I can recommend it as. It is a novelty. If you can find it, if you choose to buy it, if you are like me, a bit of a completionist, and maybe you want all of Bruce Tegner's work, okay, that would be a reason to get it. If you want to learn anything about Savat, I would not recommend this. If you want to learn how to fight efficiently and effectively, I would not get this. So yeah, unless you just got a thing for unusual books, this is not a book that I can generally recommend. And again, I'm sorry guys to leave it on a bit of a downer there. I don't take pleasure in trashing other people's work, but I clearly have some thoughts about this one. Oh well. But yeah, some of the partner drills are okay, I think. Anyway, that's all I have for now, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.